Albert Einstein once said that play is the highest form of research. Well, let's get ready to do some research. This is Teach, Play, Learn, the podcast, and I am your host, Adam Peterson. Before we get to today's episode, gotta give a huge shout out to the guys behind our intro music that we use, Brian and Neil, my buddies from the band Cuckoo Kangaroo. Visit cuckookangaroo.com to see more of their music and awesome merch, as well as check out their YouTube channel. And a big thank you to our sponsor of Teach, Play, Learn, the podcast, Jose and Sean, my friends from Berteau & Co. If you don't know what Berteau & Co. is, use the shopping link in the show notes to visit berteauandco.com to see top-notch teacher planners, at-home planners, t-shirts, and more with the coolest designs on them. And when you use that shopping link and use the promo code AdamP15, you will save yourself 15% off your order at berteauandco.com. Let's get to today's topic. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I am Adam Peterson, your host of the Teach, Play, Learn, the podcast. So excited to have another guest here today to talk all about playful learning through math. He is one of the co-authors of the book Math Recess, Playful Learning in an Age of Disruption. We have Chris here from the book, Chris Brownell. Did I say your name right?
Yeah, just like the color in the letter,
Brownell.
Brownell.
Brownell. I meant to ask you before we started, and I totally forgot. Well, welcome, Chris. How are you?
No worries. I'm doing great, thanks. As great as anybody can be in the middle of COVID isolation at home.
That's what we keep saying. In all these times of uncertainty, we're doing the best that we can because no one really knows what's going on. But I'm so excited you're here today, and would love to hear more about you before we dive into the book. So tell us about yourself as an educator, as a human being. Who is Chris?
Okay, so when people ask me this, I usually just go back and say I am a high school math teacher, which I did for 14 years, and now for the last 16 years I haven't done. But I still see myself as a high school math teacher in my heart, in my soul. It's sort of what I do. My educational background is I earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics after taking a couple of years off after high school, because I was also that kid who ran off the stage at graduation screaming and yelling, "I'm finally done. I'm sick of this," only to go back to the same high school and do my student teaching.
Oh, wow.
6 or 8 years later. So yeah, it was dramatic shifts happened in my life, and I always had an interest in education. I always had an interest in mathematics. I was a terrible math student in school, flunked algebra 2, flat out F. Decided I loved mathematics while I was just sort of puttering around outside of college.
Okay.
And went back and placed right into I placed into a calculus course, but decided to take a pre-calculus course, even though I failed algebra 2. And 3 years later, I was ready to take calculus, they said. But I didn't go through my undergraduate degree unscathed. I struggled all the way through. I struggled with the concept of school, or the way, not so much the concept, but the way in which we sort of force kids to do things in school, and the way we structure the structure of school. I believe it's way over structured.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I finally finished up that bachelor's degree, and I got my teaching credential, and I taught for 13, 14 years, and was constantly looking at ways to change the school I was in and the classroom. I was constantly upgrading the course and the materials that I would teach. I taught everything from consumer math, or actually in those days they still had general math when I started teaching, general math to ninth graders. And I taught general math through AP calculus in the high school,
Wow.
and switched over. Along the way, I picked up a master's degree, and then I switched over and I was teaching undergraduate mathematics at a local private liberal arts university where I'm
Okay.
still at, Fresno Pacific University. And I did that for about 8-10 years and decided I really do need a PhD to continue on. And so at 50, I started my doctoral program and I graduated with a PhD at 55.
Well,
In
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks. I was kind of pleased with it. It was nice to be able to get through that much individual work and writing and think through all those ideas. My degree is in mathematics education from the Claremont Graduate University, with a focus on policy and practice, because I'm really not interested in the way we practice the teaching of mathematics, and so I'm really interested in finding ways of changing that and working within the system to change the system as
Well,
best I
that's
can.
wonderful to hear. As an educator and a parent of elementary age students, that is wonderful to hear. I'm so glad to hear that.
Thanks. I am super excited to see things change. Honestly, as hard and as miserable as isolation is, as this pandemic is, and as hard on parents and teachers as doing this distance learning has been, and unfortunately, as inequitable as it has been administered, I see this time as we turn the corner and start to really rethink how, as we start going back to school and opening up the economy and the world again sometime in the future, not this month, I hope. But I really see this as an opportunity to change schools fundamentally. So
Totally.
we time has come. It really has come that we need to make that shift.
Yeah, I've been
Um,
reading a ton of articles on that kind of stuff. Like this seems like every day there's a new article about, and I'm looking mainly at like the primary level because that's what I taught, but seeing so many saying like our kids are going to need to play, not just for the academic purpose of it, but because they haven't socialized with anyone for months on end. And it seems like there's something new coming out every single day supporting that mindset that let's get them moving before we think about sitting them back down in a desk, and I know there's more
oh,
to it than that, but I'm interested to see where this is going to go. A friend of mine said something. She's working as an instructional coach and kind of teaching her staff from home as her staff teaches their students from home. And she said something to me recently that I thought was really powerful. And she said, I know there's so many negatives surrounding this, but I'm really excited about the positives. And I'm really excited to see how the way teachers have stepped up during this time carries over into the way they teach in their classrooms in the future. And I think that's such a really good way to look at this, that you said it best. There is going to be a shift, and we've already kind of made that. And I hope and pray that it continues into classrooms for sure.
me too. If it's, I have a friend who's she's her profession is professional development. She's a
Right.
online Google Classroom expert, and that's what she does. She works with teachers as a professional developer all the time, 100%, freelance consultant kind of person. And she's written a few books. You may be familiar with it because she's in the Dave Burgess stable of authors as well, Alice Keeler.
Oh
And
my
she
gosh. Yeah.
recently, yeah. So recently, we were having a conversation, and she was saying to me, what's the appropriate amount of time for kids to be in a doing learning at home at this time, distance learning? 90 minutes a day. It's as random a number as any other number, right? It's just,
Right.
where do we I saw this crazy article states all over the nation have completely different
Oh, yeah.
ideas of what should be the number of minutes given to instruction and so on and so forth. And I want to fall back on, in the book, you mentioned the book Math Recess. um, I wrote the chapter on Finland because I've spent some time, um, for my graduation present. My wife said yes to me going to Finland for a week, on an educational tour,
That had to have
with
been
some other
fascinating,
people
I'm
from.
sure.
It was amazing. And uh, one of the things that you see in places like Finland, and the reason to talk about Finland is because they have been for the last 15 years, you know, at the top of the educational
Hmm.
performance assessments,
Right.
the PISA assessments, and TIMS as well. And they, you go there and they talk about how much time the kids are playing, and they talk about, not worrying so much about what standard you're teaching today. In fact, they don't even talk about standards like that. Um, their greatest challenge right now is how to, um, their national curriculum, in 2016 or so, adopted the idea that every child at every grade level in every year will have to take on a multi-day, student-centered, student-driven learning, transdisciplinary learning experience.
Really.
Every student, every year, every age,
All the way through.
all the way through, from kindergarten through the end of upper secondary.
Okay.
And they, the teachers were like, well, how do we do that? But they took it on as pretty much as a challenge, and they've been playing at it and getting better and writing new investigations for kids. They didn't panic. They didn't worry. They just said, the beauty of it is it's student driven. So what is it that they want to learn about, and how do you assist them to do it? It's, um,
That's pretty
kids can
amazing.
learn, and so can the adults in the room.
Oh yeah, I learn just as much from these little ones every single day as they do from me.
Yes.
Probably more, like you know
Yes.
that as an educator too. We learn it's constantly learning. And then that's what's cool about education is as a teacher you have to constantly keep learning to keep up with the times. But wow, to be able to study and see that firsthand in Finland had to have been phenomenal. Because yeah, I mean,
Oh,
they're doing something right. There's no doubt about it.
they really are. They're but part of it is because they've changed their focus,
Hmm.
right? Their focus is about helping the child to develop and become whoever it is they're going to be. They're not trying to, make sure every kid, masters
Right.
each minute little standard within a language arts, or, um, mathematics
Hmm.
set of
Well, and
standards,
it's one of those
curriculum.
things because kids, no matter what grade level, are different in so many aspects. I mean, I have two kids, and when it comes to learning, they're both hard workers, but what they find an interest in, or I guess what they're passionate about when it comes to learning, is so different. So I love that thought process. That it has. I mean, I don't know why we haven't thought of this sooner here to make it more. And I know there's a lot of educators that do to make it more student centered, but it just has to be. I mean, we think
Right.
about the way we like to learn. I tell teachers this when I go out and work with them all the time. Think about, when we're putting books in kids' hands, or we're letting kids read certain things or write certain things. I do a lot of training on writing, and I always remind
Mhm.
teachers that there's nothing in our writing standards that tells us what students have to write about. It just tells them the skills they need to learn as writers. So you
Right.
as an adult like to write about things that are passionate to you. Why not let the kids write about things that are passionate to them instead of giving them the same prompt for every single student every single day. So, and that kind of goes along the same lines of student-centered learning. But you've kind of answered some of the questions, but I kind of want you to give your piece on it, because I know you kind of told what you've seen and witnessed and whatnot. But I love when I'm looking at the book on Amazon, the first thing you see under the title, listeners, if you go check it out, just type in Math Recess, says, "Let's play math," in these giant bold letters. And I love that. And to quote the little review here, says, "In the theme of recess, where a treasure chest of balls, ropes, and toys would be kept for children to play with, this book holds a deep and imaginative collection of fun mathematical ideas, puzzles, and problems." And I love that. Like, just the fact that it says, "Let's play math." So as a co-author of this book,
Mm-hmm.
when someone says to you, why, and I ask all my guests this because you get it, and a lot of other educators get it, but there's a lot of people still in the world that don't think the way we think, that don't have this mindset that this stuff is important. And like you said, hopefully after all of this, that mindset comes back as an important one. But
Yeah.
when people say, "Listen, Dr. Brownell, why play? Why write about it? Why talk about it? What's the purpose behind it?" What's your go-to answer there?
My go-to answer? My go-to answer is because it works,
I like that.
right?
Period. We can just drop the mic right there.
Yeah, full stop. If you sometimes let's think of it this way. How do you know you are fluent in another language? Well, for me, the best measure for fluency in a new language is, do you get the joke?
Right.
Right? Can someone tell you a joke in Spanish or Portuguese and you laugh? Because jokes always require you to be able to play with the language. They work on subtleties and ironies and nuances of meaning, and that's what makes things funny, right?
Right. It's a good way to
It's
think
the
about it.
subtlety. It's that play that lets you know you have real command of the language, and it's the ability to play with mathematics that allows you to genuinely be be in command of it.
Right. Yeah. To show a true understanding of it.
Right. So in the book we mention Wayne Gretzky and how he would play. How did he become so great? Yes, he did drills, but mostly he played at his drills. He turned those into games, and he went about it with a playful attitude. And that way, when he was in the situation, he was just playing as though, I mean, he and the puck were one in hockey, right?
Right.
And how do you get that place? The only way to get to that place is by diving in and swimming deep in the deepest possible waters. So let's part of the problem with American math curriculum is not that it has too much, it's that it has too little opportunity to genuinely play. There's nothing less playful than memorize this this mindless set of algorithms.
Yeah, at the elementary level, and I'm sure you've seen it too. Like a lot of the mindless stuff. When I see like elementary curriculums, and I had one. I mean, I was the teacher, and I read about this in my book. Like I was the teacher who I did everything that I was supposed to do, and that my administration required me to do. But my admin, and I think one of the reasons I became so successful in this, and our school is so successful, was they let us teach. They said, these are the goals. I mean, these are the state mandated things you have to do. Here's the stuff we're supplying, but teach, just teach. And I noticed that when I was allowed to do that, the math came so much better, because a lot of the curriculums, when you talk about mindless algorithm stuff at our age level, the little ones, I taught kindergarten, it was a lot of just handwriting practice. And it might have been called handwriting time, not math time, because it was copying numbers. It wasn't really had to do anything with the math concepts. It was a lot of handwriting. And while there's an importance to that, it didn't require us teaching math to do those little worksheets, So
Yeah.
yeah, I used another word too, diving in and just do it. And I think that's one of the big parts about any type of learning is when we just allow kids to do things and experience things. And I know you guys talk about a lot of that in the book as well.
Well, if you're gonna, if you teach people, you're gonna have to trust that you're gonna have to trust the learning process. And we as a species learn by nature. I mean, it is how we interact with our environment,
Hmm.
and it's how we go about making sense of things. Um, it's how we learn to appreciate beauty. It's how we learn to appreciate um, hardship and victory. And it's it's by it's by doing. It's not by having stuff shoved at us and told that you're gonna, told to us. We're better off when we experience these things.
Very
um,
cool. Yeah.
the other thing, about play, is if you talk to professional mathematicians, people, and I'm not advocating that we educate people to become mathematicians, but I
Hmm.
am everyone needs to understand mathematics in some way, and more so as we move into the future.
Right.
Mathematical thinking and mathematical reasoning are going to be, and are already, very critically important, uh, especially now. How do you make sense of what's going on data wise around us? But if you talk with with mathematicians, people who have decided to make mathematics their avocation and their vocation, um, they talk about playing with ideas. Mathematics is just, it's a game, but the game is idea. The objects are ideas, and
Right.
you can apply mathematics to just about every subject.
Oh yeah. My wife, so my wife taught, she teaches second grade now, but she taught eighth grade honors math for, gosh, 9 years, maybe more before moving to second
Wow.
grade. And she always knew she wanted elementary, but math is still one of her, I mean, some of the stuff that she gets her second graders to do blows my mind. I mean, some of it, I'm not a math guy at all. Like, it was not my forte. It was not my passion. Um, and now I see what some of the little ones are doing, and it blows my mind. My son can probably rattle off, he's in third grade, and he can probably rattle off division facts faster than I can, because
Yeah.
he is so good at it. But he's been able to, he's got a teacher who has taught with the idea in mind that let's let them learn the way they learn, and he
Hmm.
can play games with it. I'm so glad you brought that up, that there is a lot of just playing around with it. So um
Yeah.
if a teacher, I guess you're teaching at the collegiate level, and high school you've taught, if a teacher is looking to do this type of stuff, make math more playful and make learning more playful in that way, what are your suggestions? Because a lot of people probably haven't taken this route because they're afraid. I think a lot of what stops us in education is that fear of failure.
Hmm.
Well, anything in life stops us feel fear of failure. But I talk to teachers all the time who are like, "Oh my gosh, how did you make that work, or how'd you make this work?" And I was like, I just tried it. Like, I just stepped out, and like you said, dive deep and swim. So what kind of suggestions do you have for educators who are wanting to venture into this realm, besides picking up your book and reading it? But other than that, what are
Of course.
some suggestions you have for teachers who might want to experiment with more playful math?
um you nailed it, I think. Just, you really did. um get another important thing, I think, is to get past the need to be the expert in the room.
Right.
um you don't have to know, and you don't have to know the answer before you start asking the question. In fact, the less often the end,
Hmm.
the more often the beginning is really exciting, and the journey is a lot of fun. um and that's really contrary, I think, to how we teach what we try to instill in people's minds about what mathematics is. You know, mathematics isn't a collection of things to take you that we want everybody to know to get to all these sets of right answers, right?
Right.
Um, it's really it's a mindset. It's a way of viewing the world. It's it's a set of processes. There's a there's an article out. It's old now. It came out before the Common Core, uh, before the standards of mathematical practice that came into the Common Core. A researcher by the name of Al Cuoco wrote a preface to a geometry book called Habits of Mind, the habits of mind of mathematics and mathematicians. And within there, he draws all of these great similes and analogies about what it means to be a mathematical thinker. And he talks about mathematicians are tinkerers.
Mm-hmm.
Mathematicians think big to understand small. They think small and try to understand big. And he gives all of these great um, um, sets of couplets, really, of ideas that he links together that feel as though they are paradoxical, and at the same time they shed light on how it how math how mathematical thought takes place.
Right.
And we all can think mathematically. And so um not not allowing yourself to think mathematically, I see as a as a tragedy. It's a shame that so many adults make it to adulthood and say to me, "Oh, I'm not a math person. I could never be a math person.
Right.
I hated math." I had I have so many people come up to me over the years and put their fingers up in the sign of a cross when they find out, "Oh my gosh, get back from me, Satan." You know, it's like, you math teacher, you. It's like you're the very embodiment of evil. But in fact, mathematics is it's a fine work of human creation. It's one of the most it's as creative an act as anything else.
Yeah,
And
it's deep, and I think part of the reason
yeah,
adults will say that, and I'll be honest, I'm one who, you know, I said it just a little while ago. I wasn't a math person, and I think a lot of it has to do with the way we were taught, and that's what makes me so happy to hear you say that you're on this mission to shift that thinking, because I wasn't taught math, and nothing against my educators. I mean, I had some great teachers, but I wasn't
right.
taught in a way of doing. I was taught math by watching my professor or my teacher in high school write with a vis-a-vis marker on an overhead projector and say, "Solve this, solve
Yeah.
this, solve this." You know, so
Yes.
that's why I think your book and your mindset right
I
now
taught that way.
digital, right? Like is so important. And we, you know, I talk about, it's funny when you told about yourself at the beginning, how you're one who was, you know, run off the stage at graduation. I think it's interesting to hear that, because in my book, in my introduction of me, I kind of tell the same story. I mean, I didn't hate school. I loved school. I just don't remember working hard at school. And then when I went to college, I almost failed out of college my freshman year because I was in this new world, and I didn't want to learn.
Mhm.
I just wanted to hang out and have fun, you know. So it's funny to hear. I mean, it's cool to hear another guy say that he was on that path and now he's a teacher, because I have a lot of people who say to me like, "Wait, you're a teacher? Like, cause didn't you almost fail out of college?" And so
You
it's
flunked
interesting to
out.
hear those things. But my big part was, just like I said about math, was I wasn't taught in a way that was exciting to me, and that's why it wasn't exciting to learn it. And luckily, you know, I was able to come up with this mindset early on in my career as a teacher, was if I want these kids to have fun in school, then we need to make it fun for them to be there. And I know that they're going to learn everything I feed to them. They're going to get it all eventually, but do we want them to get it just by, you know, pounding it into their heads, or get it by, like you said, learning through experience. And when I shifted to that mindset and kind of turned my classroom into a student-centered approach, it took off, and it was amazing to see their little minds click. You could see the wheels turn in their heads when you just let them be and let them do and let them be kids. And it's amazing
Yes.
to see that happen.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to, do you want your kids at the end of their experience with you, do you want to be able to say, oh, look, all of my kids were able to um, show with mastery um, all of these 85 or 120 standards?
Right.
Or is it more important that your kids come out at the end of your class more more excited to go to keep learning,
Mm-hmm.
wishing they could stay with you, wishing that they could stay in a place of engaged minds, engaged brains, engaged bodies, and genuinely excited to be in the learning process.
Right. Yeah, that's
If
one thing that
if
defined success for me was
Right.
I knew they were going to get the stuff. I always tell teachers all the time, like, they're going to learn to read, they're going to learn math, they're going to learn to write, they're going to learn those things. But especially as an early childhood teacher, and then I think also especially as a high school teacher, like if we can make them want to walk through that door with a smile on their face, then that's what defines you as a successful teacher. I think it's not
Yes.
about the stuff. I always tell people it's the substance over the stuff. The stuff is going to come, but there has to be a substance there that makes them want to do it. So it's amazing to me. We just met today, like, we've been talking through email, and our mindsets are so alike. I love this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm so interested in hearing more about your thought process on the shift and how this is going to help education, and anything about you. So anybody that wants to learn more about you, Chris, how can people follow you or find you, or what's the best way to keep in touch with you?
You can find me on Twitter at cbrownlmath. Um, you can send me email, mathedresearcher@gmail.com. My face is all over the Fresno Pacific website, Fresno Pacific University website. You can find me there. The book has a website called mathrecessbook.com,
Okay.
and you can go there and find more out about the book. Didn't talk enough about the book. Is chock full of, you mentioned it, games and puzzles and problems, and any of those puzzles, problems, games have we've developed and have links to online versions of them,
Oh, perfect.
and you can and every link that's within the book that we put into the book is also on that web page. So you don't have to type out HTTPS blah 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 blah, or you don't even have to use. We included QR codes for a number of things to take you various places about the web, but all of that is there's the accompanying web page has all of that stuff built into it already. So you
Very
can.
cool. Well, we'll link that all in the show notes as well too. And tell us. So you keep saying we. Tell us more about your co-author of the book too, because I know it was a joint project. Sounds
Oh
like
yeah.
it just I'm reading all these reviews too, which blow my mind. You got some big name people with reviews on Amazon here that just, it's pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate. A lot of people resonated with our thinking, and um, Sunil Singh is a math consultant in Ontario. He lives in Toronto, actually, Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
Um, and we met over Facebook, and when he was writing his first book called The Pie of Life, and we connected and hung out at a NCTM conference in San Francisco in 2016, and bandied some ideas about around another book, and we kind of started writing this book under a different title. I think we mentioned it in the book, but originally the book was going to be the mathematics for the beach bar and barbecue, because uh, we wanted originally we wanted to write a book that was about, sort of evangelistic, in the sense that it would bring more people into the fold of understanding that mathematics is fun
Right.
and genuinely a good thing to do. And we turned it, once we got to working with the publisher, we turned it into a book that's much more, I think, has more application to classrooms, and that was important in the long run for us to do.
Right.
But it's still appropriate for people outside of the education world to read, I think. In
Yeah,
fact,
and especially right now. I mean, everybody outside the education world has been thrown into the education world as homeschool has become the thing of the current situation. So I think that's
yeah,
perfect. And I know in one of the reviews it even talks about, for parents, teachers, administrators, anyone looking to make math more fun. So yeah, it's
yeah,
perfect read for right now.
yeah, I think so. I really, I just, in fact, I'm so committed to that idea. There's a small little birdhouse sort of community library on a walking trail right near where I live here.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you have those there
we do.
where
They call
people just?
them little free libraries around here. Yeah, people drop off books and you can take a book.
Yeah,
And
drop off books. I just felt the need to drop off a copy there just this morning, in fact, and so we'll see if anybody picks it up
that's a
and
cool
reads it.
idea.
I left a note in it, and hoping that somebody in the neighborhood picks it up and reads it and challenges their kids to play some Sprouts or Nim or something like that.
I
Just
like
to,
that idea. I'm gonna have to do that with one of mine. That's a good thought.
yeah,
And
yeah,
really, that's when mine came out, it was supposed to be a later publication date than it was. And then Dave and Shelley from DBC gave me a call and they're like, listen, we want to push yours forward. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And they're like, we just think parents are gonna eat this up because you made it so simple. And that's one thing I was so proud of. And as I'm reading reviews, like I said, of your book, I mean, that seems to be the praises people are singing. Highly recommend for everyone, all grade levels. So my favorite review, though, I think the title of it was "Amazing Book: How to Think About Math," and I think that speaks volumes to the way you guys wrote it. That it's not
yeah,
just here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea overload. It's this is how we should be thinking about this term mathematics or this subject of math. And I mean
yeah.
that's a huge compliment to you as authors, I think.
Well, that's part of why we included the language about disruption in the title, right?
Right.
We we really perceive the need to disrupt the present perspective
Mm-hmm.
on mathematics. That's our real call. Our real goal is to say, look, everybody, shake it up. This is the you need to shake up your perception about mathematics. What you were taught, we go so far as to say what you were taught is not math.
Mm-hmm.
You were taught a bunch of things that were really important to people getting ready for the space race in the 1960s.
It hasn't changed.
And it's not necessarily critical in the 21st century anymore.
Right.
I mean, if we had time, I'd talk to you about my next project, or the project I'm working on now, which is a data science curriculum.
Oh, really?
I'm super excited about this. That it's a curriculum for the high school. And here in California, we are working with the University of California and the State Board of Education. We know people in both places. I'm working with folks at Stanford,
No kidding.
UCubed, and we genuinely believe we will be able to write a curriculum to replace Algebra 2.
Well, I'm super interested to hear about that for sure. And I know I've
with
got a
some.
lot of friends that teach high school that will have to keep on the track for that and follow that. Is that type of
Yeah,
stuff you share out on Twitter and like projects that you're sharing out as it goes along, or is this going to be like a when you're done, boom, here you go, world?
we're not ready to deliver things out to the larger world. I've actually just kind of recently been granted permission to actually say that we're working on
Okay.
this, and so um, but this is where things are going, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time, I think,
Well, that's
and it's
super
coming
interesting, man. Yeah.
at a really great time.
Yeah, you guys have kind of hit the nail on the head with you're right, like you said, right at the right time, the situation we're all in. So I'm excited to follow that. I'm not a high school math teacher, but I'm excited to see where that goes, because I think any type of disruption or change or shift like that, once it happens for one subject, other people are or area, I guess, other people are going to
Hmm.
start to see. Once one teacher does it and it gets out there, people will be like, yeah, this is what we should be doing. So yeah,
Hmm.
great job. Good luck to you with that. I'm excited to see it happen.
Thanks. Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, thank you for chatting today. I'm so excited to hear more from you and follow along with you. And definitely, listeners, we'll put all the links below in the show notes. So listen to all of that. Check it out, especially those free game links that Chris mentioned. And if you
Yeah.
don't have it yet, go pick up the book, Math Recess, Playful Learning in an Age of Disruption. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you all so much for listening. If you want to hear more music like what you're hearing right now, visit cuckookangaroo.com. And then please like, share, and rate this podcast wherever you're listening to it so others can find it too. I'll see you guys on the next episode. 'Cause you are the best.